Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the PHNX Rising Show, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave a 5-star review. My name is Ramon Chavez, and alongside me is Owen Evans. How you doing, sir?
I'm not too bad. Looking forward to a busy week. Another East Coast trip, eh?
Always fun, right? We have a great show for you guys today. A lot to talk about. It's always a busy week in USL and soccer overall. So we're definitely going to touch on what happened on Saturday against El Paso Locomotive. Obviously, a 1-0 loss at home, their third consecutive home loss, which is never a good thing to see. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened post-game and during halftime, because apparently there was some stuff going on there with the El Paso coaching crew as well. So definitely going to talk about that. Some updates from today's press conference. Owen's going to fill us in on that, and some big news around the USL. It's never a dull week or day or even hour in the USL, so there's always something to talk about. So definitely going to talk about that as well. And of course, we got to touch on the World Cup, because the World Cup field is set. We got some games today, and so we're going to fill you guys in on that as well. All right, Owen. Man, I don't even know how to begin, because I feel like we've been on this kind of like downward spiral when it comes to Rising. Obviously, one game at least out of their control, but the rest of the games is it's just tough to see, and we experienced that on Saturday. So just to fill everybody in, 14 games so far Rising has played during the season. They're 7-7. Not a position that a lot of fans, players, and coaching staff are accustomed to seeing their team in. They're They have 21 points right now, 7th in the Western Conference, literally in the brink of missing the playoff if it were to start today. And one of the big statistics that I found really interesting was 3 goals in their last 5 games. So taking all that into account, Owen, how are you feeling right now?
I don't think anyone can really feel good looking at what they're doing at the moment, can they?
Mm-hmm.
Look, again, and we said this before, I'm sure it was the 3rd straight home loss, which is the first time that's happened since 2016.
Yeah.
Since the Arizona United days. So it's really not great to watch that. I feel as though, in general, the chances, we've spoken about chance creation and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times when they're not clinical, which we saw, for example, Joey Calistri on the weekend, very much not clinical. 2 really clear-cut chances that he probably should
Mm-hmm.
have put one of them away.
Yeah.
But beyond that, though, you just look at it and feel like, even when chances are being created, are they always the best chances?
Mm-hmm.
Are they quite finding those, high probability opportunities that they're not putting away? Well, again, there were a couple on Saturday, but not necessarily as many as we've been used to seeing out of a Phoenix Rising team that typically goes out and just utterly dominates the league for the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even beyond that, look at the last 3 games, the last 3 home games, that is. When you look at them and you say, okay, Tampa Bay Rowdies, you might lose to them. The nature of that loss did not really do anybody, did not do Rick or the players any favors in
Yeah.
terms of how popular they are right now. But those last 2 games, Birmingham Legion, El Paso Locomotive, those aren't games that at home you should be losing. Those are
Mm-hmm.
games that you have to at least take 1 point from. But realistically, I think that anything short of 4 points over these last 2 games would have been a failure, really.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely. And you touched on that on Saturday, that this early part of the schedule for Rising is very home friendly. A lot of home games here, but they're losing these games, and it's really hard to make up points. And especially, for example, this weekend, it's a travel week. It's an East Coast game. It's not going to be an easy flight. Not going to be an easy game. We'll talk about louder in a little bit, but these are the points that you don't want to be losing, especially at home, because now you have to make up that ground on the road. And so you're going to be facing teams like Louisville, Memphis, teams that are the cream of the crop of the Eastern Conference, and those are not going to be easy games for Rising for sure. Looking
you
at the
know what?
stats,
Actually,
yeah,
let's hop on that with it. It's tough, 2 tough games coming up, obviously, in terms of an East Coast trip to Loudon, where you'd say
mhm,
realistically Loudon are not one of this league's best teams by any stretch of the imagination, even though
yeah,
they shocked us at the start of the year. However, it's still an East Coast trip, so it's difficult. Then you've
mhm.
got to go to Vegas. How many points? There are 6 points on the table over these next 2 games. What do you think, at least, Ramon, here is the minimum that they have to come back with for this trip to be considered any kind of success?
I just want to point out that Deadwin is on the chat. Yeah, actually, since you left us, the team has been on a downward spiral. So we're gonna blame you. Actually, shout out to Michael and Josh. But I mean, to answer your question, Owen, I mean, I was talking about 12 points, man. Like, and look where we are right now. So as far as I think Loudon is a must-win game. That's one of the questions that I had for you later on was, is this Loudon trip a must-win for Rising? And I think definitely it is. They need to have a great result. If they come out, they squeak by with a 1-0 win or a 2-1, I would not be happy with that result. They need to go out there and score some goals, get that confidence going, because once they head to Vegas, Vegas is not that team of old. They Danny Trejo, Cal Jennings, they continue to make their mark on that team, and so it's going to be a tough time for the defense. And if they're not clicking, I feel like that's just going to be another loss on their record. So minimum 4 points, but what I'm seeing is 3 points. I think they're going to lose in Vegas. I don't think they're coming in at a good time or facing them at a good time. But I think minimum they need to get 4 points out of these next two games.
See, I think that the form that we've seen in recent games really has meant that anything less, at least from my perspective on this, than 4 points out of 6 is an
Mm-hmm.
abject failure
Mm,
on this road trip. I
yeah.
feel as though we have now hit that point whereby Rising must win at least one and must draw the other of these two games to come away with their heads held high. I don't think that a loss on this trip, as difficult as it might be at times, is really acceptable and really will, help them pick up the pieces of a season that already
Yeah.
feels as though it's starting to fall off a bit. I mean, look at it this way. Tomorrow, if one of those there are two games in there where if Oakland wins or if LA Galaxy wins, Rising will finish below the play or be below the playoff line tomorrow
Mhm.
night. Um, I mean, if both of
Yeah,
them win,
and I
Rising are
don't
down
want
to
to be
ninth.
yeah, I don't want Rising to be in that position because now you're looking at other teams. You're not controlling your own destiny. And that's not a position as a team that you want to be in because now you're playing for results. You're not playing your game. You're trying to squeak by with the win. You're not trying to play your game. And I think that's just it's more of a detriment to them now because not I feel like the team and the coaching staff is already kind of in their head about we should play the right way. We should be making these chances count. And if you add, let's look behind us and see where Oakland or Galaxy is doing, that puts even more pressure on the team and the coaching staff to perform. And I think the way they're performing this season, that may just, get them off the railroads and just continue to not get those results they need. So I don't want to be doing that or Rising shouldn't be doing that.
And I think, looking ahead, the reason why these games, you've got to take points from them. You can't be losing some of these games on the road. Is that what have they got down the road? They've got Louisville. They've got Memphis. They've still got to play Sacramento. They've still got to play
Mhm.
Colorado Springs. All of these teams that are, look, Rising managed to get it done against San Antonio somehow, 6 points out of 6.
Yeah.
But there are tough games on the horizon, including,
Mhm.
as I said, two of the top teams in the East that you have to go away to. And
Yeah.
actually, that's coming up very soon. Both of those games are next month.
Mhm.
So time is of the essence. You've got to start racking up those points because there are going to be games coming up soon whereby you might have to accept that they're not going to come away with anything.
And now that you're mentioning those July games, just a little heads up for everybody. So Rising face off against Orange County at the beginning of the month, travel to Memphis, travel to Louisville, host Sacramento, Oakland, Colorado. That is murderer's row. That
It's
is
not
an
great.
insane like team wise, like that is an insane amount of teams that Rising will be facing. So is July a make or break month for Rising? Like, is that like I'm kind of just like shook right now by looking at that schedule.
What's remarkable about this is I was speaking with another reporter who covers this team, and we were saying that June was the make or break month because July is going to be so tough.
Mm,
This is the month where they had to get it done. And the problem
yeah.
is that they haven't been.
Hmm.
So really, when you look at it, it's tough. It's an uphill battle from here.
For sure, for sure. I do want to shout out everybody in the comments. Josh, thank you for making it to a live show. I always love Josh. He's always one of the PHNX fans. I was him on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you can find Josh is there. Michael, Edwin, of course. Hope you're doing well, Edwin. Haven't talked to you in a minute, but He's talking about Ache leaving Dynamo and go to Rising. So, speaking of the Mexican team, they're tied against Jamaica 1-1. Lambert having a good game. They're playing over there in Kingston. Bonnie, Thomas, shout out to all of you guys. Always happy to have you here. Let's talk a little bit more about the game on Saturday. Owen, I felt like Rising played decently in the first half. They were making, I felt like had good quality chances. If you look at the statistics, ball possession definitely skewed a little bit more towards El Paso's side. But at the end of the game, 14 total shots for Rising, 3 shots on target for them, only 2 for El Paso. But and I kind of felt that while I was watching the game, that I felt El Paso just couldn't really crack through the midfield and the defense of Rising, or if they weren't creating really that chances. I know there was one that one off the post, but besides that, I really didn't feel like they were that dangerous. Santi Moore, I felt, had one of his better games, and it's just one of those things where it's like, at least Rising should have been able to get 1 point out of that game, but they weren't able to, and that's not like them. They typically come back if they're down, especially at home. But how did you feel about that game, and do you feel like they should have at least gotten at least 1 point?
I feel as though yes is the answer, simply because some of those attempts should have been put away.
Mhm,
How I will say, on the other end, though, we can talk about the fact that El Paso weren't necessarily as much of an attacking threat as quite we expected. But then you have to remember that they had no Diego Luna, they
mhm,
had no Luis Solignac, who was off on for personal reasons.
yeah.
By the end of the game, they actually brought a couple of teenagers off the bench.
I was gonna say that, like, they had a 16 and 15-year-old towards the end of the game.
Yeah, that's the team that we're coming up against. This wasn't an El Paso side that was completely stacked with all of their best players. They
Mhm,
had a couple of guys missing. So I think in that sense, they were a smarter team, perhaps at times. They got their goal, and at the end of the day, Rising just wasn't up to it. And look, at the end of the day, I mean, I know we can talk about with the foul and the red card and all of those things. There is nothing from watching it back that convinces me that the decision that was made was egregiously wrong in
mhm,
any way.
mhm,
I feel as though contact, and for those of you who aren't certain on this, for example, when you have a holding offense, everyone knows about how advantage works, right? A foul takes place, but if it's still to your advantage to keep playing, the referee just, you see the 2 arms go up, or 1 arm as it is now, and they play on with the advantage. Well, that same principle applies to a holding foul.
mm,
Okay, you apply the advantage principle through, and then if there's still that kind of contact going on when he gets into the penalty area, now you've got a penalty kick and not a free kick outside. So if it continues in, it's still a penalty. A lot of people were talking about or I know Devin Kerr at least was talking about the full considerations that go into whether it should be a red card. And other people were asking about, I thought it was a yellow if it's in the penalty area. 2 key things on there. Number one, the downgrade to a yellow only happens if it's an attempt to play the ball. In this
mhm,
case, Manuel Madrid is grabbing the guy. It's not an attempt
yeah.
to play the ball. And number two, the considerations you've got: is he likely to get possession or maintain possession? To me, watching that, yes, he was.
Mhm,
Benelon was not going to get anywhere near that ball if you imagine that Manuel Madrid isn't there and not fouling the guy. And then on the other hand, it's a, ignore what was said on Twitter about, is he going towards the goal? That's not the exact consideration. The consideration is general direction of play, which in
mhm.
this case is going towards the goal. If you presume that he wins that ball before the angle is too tight, which it's a toss
Yeah.
up, but I can live with it.
Yeah, looking back at the replay, at the moment I thought it was at least a yellow, but yeah, I could definitely see why it was a red. Definitely, Rising fans made their feelings known on social media. I got a kick out of seeing some of those comments, but I it, what bothered me most about that red card was not the fact that it was given; it was the fact that after that red card was issued, Rising elevated their urgency to play. And yeah, that's what they should have done. But where was that the entire game? Why do you have to wait until you're a man down and 5 minutes left in the game to say, you know what, let's just go for it? And I think that's what bothered me. And that, I think that kind of falls down more on the coaching than the players themselves. But it's like, where's that urgency during the 90 minutes of play? Why do you need to go down a goal and then also lose a man to play like that? So, and not only that, but you show that you can play it. So why isn't it applied consistently throughout the game? Those are my main questions.
You tell me. You tell me. I have no idea what it is that, for whatever reason, sparked the kind of reaction that it did from that red card that just wasn't there prior. Because look,
Yeah.
this isn't as though this team is lacking for motivation. It's not as though they have struggled, as we often see with rising teams. They get towards the end of the season, and you're trying to talk about, okay, what adversity? What is actually facing them that's going to be the
Mhm.
challenge to pick themselves up, to motivate themselves to play, in which case a red card could be the case. What we're talking about this season is just the team that has really struggled to hit form. They did so for a period in April when they were pretty much home for the whole month.
Mhm.
And they haven't done it ever since. They weren't doing it before. So there shouldn't really be any lack of adversity to motivate them right now, because what have they proven this season?
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think the tipping point, was that Galaxy trip, the one to California, which I got to experience. But yeah, you just see a team that's, for stretches of time, they're dominant. They connect. That chemistry you can see it on the field. But then you have the other side of things where you have those results against Galaxy, against Tampa Bay, and I'm not gonna count the New Mexico one, but it's like, we know this team can do a lot better, but it's not there. And this is what we've been talking about the entire season, so it's nothing new. Owen, let's move on and talk about. Well, I'll ask you how you want to do. Do you want to talk about the post game show, or do you want the post game reaction from Rick, or do you want to maybe talk about what happened during halftime? Because I know there were some issues between Babukar and Jai and a player or something. I don't know if you can explain a little bit more about what happened at halftime.
Sure. So I can give you a bit of info on that from what Rick told us today. So by the sound of things, the reason Babakajai came off in the second half, he'd been struggling with some swelling. It wasn't great because at halftime there'd been an incident whereby he'd been knocked over in the tunnel by one of
Mm.
the El Paso players. The result is that he kind of cut his knee on some kind of rocks, gravel, whatever.
Mhm.
You know what that kind of surface is
Yeah.
down there. It's effectively gravel with like a carpet just kind of down the middle of it. So pretty rough surface to fall on. It caused a lot of frustration on Rising's side. They wanted people on they wanted referees to get involved, and ultimately nothing really happened there. From what I gather now, the league
Mhm.
are looking at it, is what Rick said. But after the game, kind of things just came to a bit of a head. You had an El Paso coach there. You had Bobby Dooley going at it with him, and
Mm.
that was what we witnessed. It was right next to where the backdrop had been set up for us to do the media
Mhm.
availability, and Rick was just kind of inserting himself into the middle of that, and I think trying to diffuse the situation a little bit. Um, it just kind of capped off what was a really weird post game that day, didn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna tell you. Is like, I think it's kind of piecing together why Rick took so long to come out and face the media, and ultimately a lot of the media members ended up taking off early. But I was unaware of this incident in the tunnel. So, and that's, if with context now, it explains a lot. And adding the loss on top of it, and what happened in the tunnel, I can definitely see Rick and why he needed that time to speak to the players.
And to Michael's point here, that's actually a really good point, which is after that incident happens at halftime. Why isn't that the turning point? Why did it
Mhm.
take a red card for them to kick it up a notch? Why didn't they see what had happened to Babu? And why didn't that, kind of rile them up
Yeah, the
to go out there
catalyst.
and
Yeah.
get it sorted? I really don't know. I can't explain that one. It just feels as though something, for whatever reason, is missing. And
It's like that fire, that
it's tough.
leadership to say, let's go and get this. Let's go kick their butts, like, it's,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely, for sure. Moving on a little bit here. Post game, we talked about it a little bit already, but as a media member, Owen, you're used to Rick just facing, the media right away after the games, but what was going on through your head when you were kind of just standing around? And I'm setting up for our post game show, and I'm just kind of seeing you guys just lurking around the backdrop. So what was going on through your head when he wasn't showing up and they kept telling you, hey, maybe a few more minutes? What was going on?
I feel as though we kind of went through all of that on Saturday night, didn't we? We did see a lot of that, and I will say that I'll apologize to Rick for the comments on that post-game show, because he did, of course, come out afterwards, and ultimately I was able to speak to him. I was able to walk through the kind of questions that we had about that game, and you know, from what he said, it was literally just that they were in there. They had a pretty frank meeting, a pretty pointed meeting, let's say, between players, between the staff as well in there, and all ultimately agreed that they had to kind of look in the mirror and start taking a bit more accountability, that they can't really keep going on like they are right now. Some of the guys who stepped up in that one, Aidan Quinn apparently stepped up and was pretty frank with the group, as was Ben Luntz. He feels, or what he told us was that the reaction to that had actually been pretty good, that they seem to have picked up the intensity from that. And actually, you know what, on that note, we do actually have a clip of him talking about how the reaction has been to that meeting. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
We trained Monday night, and the guys that played 60 minutes just had kind of a recovery session, but their focus, the player meeting that we had was it's time to look in the mirror, and it's time to kind of, understand and assess what's going on right now, and what changes have to be made. I met with the staff. I met with a lot of players individually yesterday and again today, to explain the changes that I'll be making for this week, and to simplify things a little bit, because now it's time for us to, play the guys that we trust, the guys that love the club, the guys that care about, the fans and the badge, and that have that kind of integrity and work ethic. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. All of that, none of it matters. And it's only about what you're going to do today. And I think it's been really good for all of us. I met with our staff, and I simplified their roles and told them to just to focus on one thing in their role. And I think it's going to be good, in these times, like I said, on Instagram, it's our greatest glory is not in falling. It's when we get up, and how many times we respond to falling. And rather than put our heads down and be negative, it's time to inspire and push. And other coaches around the league have reached out, and they're like, listen, it's just everyone's waiting for Phoenix to turn it around and to get it going in the right direction. And they think that we still have the talent, and we still have a good group. We've been playing, well enough, but too many little mistakes. And I think those little mistakes are going to be fixed with accountability.
So just one thing to note actually out of that clip, of course, was to talk about how they need to start playing the guys that they trust, that care about the club and the badge, and all of that. And to me, here's the thing. That's an implication that there are players who that doesn't apply to.
Yeah.
So my question then is who?
I mean, I'm not going to start pointing out players, but I feel like Rick kind of is pointing at certain players, especially the part where he's like, I don't care how much money you've made. I don't know I don't care where you played. And that kind of, points to certain people. So I understand what he means by it, but I feel calling out players like that is not the move right now. Because if you're talking about accountability and everyone being together and working together, I don't think that's the road you want to kind of go down to, especially if you're going to alienate players by saying those sort of things. That's just my opinion. Just hearing that.
I tend to agree to an extent. I feel as though, look, it's just something that there are obviously going to be guys on there, and all of them care. All of them care. Don't tell me that any of those people don't want to go out there and win win the cup. It's that's just not accurate, I don't think.
Yeah.
Of course, the problem then comes with who does Rick trust, and that's a different question altogether. I fear as well that those kind of comments, knowing that, look, I don't feel, and ultimately those comments kind of only underline that to an extent, that the locker room is quite as united as it could be, or quite as united as maybe it needs to be to get them out of this funk. And I wonder whether those kind of comments hugely help. Look, I understand where Rick is going with it, but I just wonder a little bit. I just know as well that, you know, there is that little bit of a disconnect at times between different people in there, and I'm not certain whether kind of framing it in that kind of way is going to be the most helpful.
Now, for the reason I'm saying that I don't like the fact that he's saying it like that is because on Saturday after the game, he spoke with you and he said the buck stops with him. You know, that it's his responsibility. So now when you're kind of saying, well, some of the players, you know, need to step it up. Yeah, and that's a fact, but that's a conversation that you have with your staff and the players themselves. I don't think saying it to, you know, media members like that is helping anybody, you know, especially if on Saturday you just said, well, I'm responsible for what's going on. Does that make sense? So it just like, what's the message here? That's what's concerning me.
I agree. And then there's the other parts of this which Rick went on later on, not in that clip, but in a separate part of the press conference today, where he kind of admitted that, look, there've been times whereby he's almost been, especially with some of the new players and chemistry not working and all of that, kind of trying to take like square pegs and put them in round holes. And it's occurred to him now, after losing 3 home games in a row, not to just keep banging his head on the wall, that they actually need to kind of put people out there as they should be put out there, rather than trying to make them do things that they're not capable of doing. Now, I'll be interested to see quite what exactly that means. Of course, there was also some talk, and of course, Ricky's very coy about what exactly he's going to give away, as any manager would be. But, you know, talk about, well, it'll be fairly obvious. You'll see who I mean when you see the lineup on the weekend. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued because it's not the first time, of course, that we've been promised change. And the change hasn't necessarily been too long lasting. But I don't know. We'll see, because clearly something has to change.
And I just want to provide context too, because after the loss on Saturday, of course, I always go to the Facebook group. I don't know why it always costs to me, but that and Twitter and social media, everybody's
why do you go to the Facebook group?
Because it's like so
of
toxic.
All the things you can go to.
In it. But it's looking like you get the opposite spectrums. You know, you get the fans that are like, hey, we lost one game, Schantz out. Like, we need him out. #Schantz out. I don't agree with that at all. You have the other side where it's like, hey, he's done so much for Rising. He's been here for a very long time. He's proven his worth. You know, let's continue to rely on him. You know, I think you need to kind of stay in the middle. You know, yes, you need to look at what's happened in the past and kind of cut him some slack, but you also need to look at what's going on. Musa is not 100%. Quinn, I think I saw on Twitter, is not playing. He's playing with an injury. He's trying to kind of, you know, play through that. Obviously, you know, we have Lambert here on my screen right now playing against Mexico, so a very key part of Rising is not there as well. So having those 3 players either absent or injured is definitely not helping the team gel together and build that chemistry and just play the usual Rising way. So yes, the losses are tough, and yes, the way that they're playing on the field is not what fans are accustomed to, but I think you kind of just need to kind of center yourself if you're a Rising fan and say, look, there's still plenty of games. There's plenty of time to make up that ground. And, you know, Santi's is improving week by week. I think Epps is going to work himself into who he's been. And as long as, you know, they continue to work together, I feel like this team will stabilize. And even Rick says it, like, people around the league are like, well, what's going on with Rising, you know? And you saw it, I was reading on the USL website today on the power rankings, and I know you don't really care about this, but even on the power rankings little kind of little paragraph they have is like, what's going on with Rising? Hopefully they can turn it up and get back into form, because this is strange. This is not the usual way. And so I feel like everyone just kind of needs to kind of relax a little bit. I've heard a couple of podcasts today just going off on Rising for no reason. So it's just, I think everyone needs to chill out. You know, we need to keep a cool head, and the results will come. And so, and now it's hard, Owen. I know you're kind of smirking right now, but I think they need a little bit more time. That's what I'm saying. if the players can get back to 100%, if you get Lambert back for the rest of the season, which hopefully he'll be able to play more games. So it's, it'll happen. And I think just need to relax and see, and then the results will come. That's my opinion. Hopefully, Rising are able to prove me right. But I think everyone just kind of needs to center themselves and relax a bit.
But I feel like there's something to be said here for the fact that where Rising are at the moment and how the results have gone kind of tell you something a little bit about Rick as a coach as well. This is someone who, when the players are doing well, is good at keeping the ship steady, all of that, and he manages well when they are doing well. But Rick isn't himself a tinkerer per se. He is not a tactician.
Okay.
He is not the guy who comes up with. I mean, he's not Pep Guardiola, right? Okay, I know we've seen him with the book there, the little Pep book, but he's not Pep Guardiola. So it kind of shows that limitation, I feel, whereby even if some of these guys come back, what we've seen is that in times of hardship, Rick hasn't necessarily made the right adjustments. And again, he kind of admitted that today, that the adjustments so far haven't been correct, or as he put it, what was it? Right, square peg in round hole, right? It doesn't work. He's been trying to do things that don't work. Now, to me, that's it just tells you a little bit about Rick as a coach and what you can necessarily expect going forward. Because if this isn't just the personnel issue, if it turns out that there's something deeper here, my fear is that Rick is under-equipped to kind of get this team out of the hole that they're currently digging for themselves.
So you're attributing this to maybe the lack of maybe a coaching staff, another coaching staff member saying, kind of maybe like a Juan Guerra that was there before, kind of questioning some of the moves and saying, you know what, Rick, this isn't gonna work because of this reason, or this is gonna work because of this reason. Do you think that's missing right now in that Rising coaching staff?
I just wonder if there are elements of that to an extent, and that's not a knock on the guys who are currently there, but I do feel as though you look at the caliber of people that have come and gone from Rising in the backroom staff. Guys like, as you mentioned, Juan Guerra, who was who's a Venezuelan international. Guys like Peter Ramage, who played at Newcastle and played at QPR and under some genuinely good managers in the English game. Guys like Blair Gavin, who played in the top flight in this country. And they don't quite have someone like that. Actually, the two guys currently doing the assistant coaching both came from or both held roles quite strongly with the academy setup there, which is good when you're trying to integrate kids. But and again, it's not to knock them. They've got experience in the professional game. It's not like they've just come out of nowhere, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there's a big difference between academy and top tier English or top tier, professional leagues. That's a big difference in that as well. Owen, let's cut this question short a little bit, but just because we're a little bit over time right now. But any updates from the press conference as far as injuries?
Not really. Musa shouldn't be a huge concern. They're trying to pace him a bit more. They may have to look at him getting some more time and even maybe drop to an academy game. And this is how Rick effectively said it. And just get him a bit of time out on the pitch. There's some struggles in terms of just he's kind of hitting fatigue. It's a problem because of coming back from injury. And once he hits that certain kind of point in the game, he knows that he can't be as explosive as he normally is defensively. So that's why they're having to sub him out when they're subbing him out. Gotcha. Beyond that, no, I mean, Babu's fine. No updates that we'd heard on Channing or on Niall. So at that
I did
point,
see Niall working out. So that will tell you something, but I don't know if that, I don't know if he's taking the field anytime soon. Phoenix is traveling to Loudoun. They're 3-9-2. Not necessarily one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, but still a must-win game. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think that anything less than a win in Loudoun really casts doubts on whether this team is going in the right direction.
For sure. All right, Owen. Well, thank you for your insights. Let's take a quick break and talk about our friends at OG. So if you guys haven't yet, you guys need to try OG's brands. If you're interested in trying their amazingly delicious variety of flavors that OG's brands has to offer, you guys can go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com to find an OG's near you. I'm gonna need to go on the website after this if Rising lose again on Saturday, man. Like I'm gonna be like you and
You're
I were
just stocking up ready.
I need to stock up. Yeah. I'm making some changes. That's why my lighting looks a little bit differently. I was telling you that I got a new desk, and I think I just need to relax with some OGs after.
You know what I'm hearing? You know what I'm hearing? You do
What's
owe
up?
us an OG's show.
That is true. Maybe the post
So
game.
what I'm
It's an early
yeah,
game.
so
It's an early game.
sounds
4:30.
great. Sounds great to me. I think you should do it.
All
Chat,
right.
let us know. Should he do it?
Yeah. Chat. Let me know if you want me to do it. I'll see. Do I need to take it like on camera? Is that allowed? Is that legal? Or should I do it after before? but
We're streaming on
regardless,
YouTube. Of course you can do it. Like it's
yeah, so just remember, guys, so yeah, let me know in the chat. We'll put it on Twitter as well, but if you guys want to get your own OGs, you guys can go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com to find an OGs near you. All right, Owen, let's talk a little bit about the USL action. A lot of action this past weekend, and there's actually Wednesday's game, so we'll talk about those as well a little bit. So any results from this past weekend that kind of caught your eye a little bit?
Vegas 3-0 over Orange County. Vegas had kind of trailed off a little bit, I feel. They stumbled a bit. They'd had that early season success, and yet by the end they weren't quite, they just weren't firing in the same way they were early doors. And then they get that result, which is a big look. I know Orange County have struggled a little bit, but 3-0 is a statement. No matter who you do it against, 3-0 is a statement. I think there's also worth noting, if we take a look, Detroit City losing 2-0 at home to Sacramento. To me, that's a statement for Sacramento because Detroit have been good at home against all kinds of opposition. So to go in there, take a 2-0 win, big for them to show that they still have credentials to do well in the Western Conference. And then the real shocker, you know what the real shocker is in here, surely.
Is it where you're not gonna say Atlanta, right? Is it Charleston?
No.
Yeah.
Charleston Battery 3, Pittsburgh Riverhounds 0.
Come on, Pittsburgh. I talked about your see, I think we're having like a little bit of a PHNX Rising Show curse because every time we talk about a team, they just go and lose the next week. Because I complimented Pittsburgh's field and stadium over there, and then they go and lose to Charleston. Come on.
You know what? I think that Loudon are great. I think we should talk about how great Loudon are and see if it works, right?
I hate them. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. I was complimenting early in the season, but yeah. Let me see. Oh, Lambert's on the field. I don't know. Some breaking news here. Hopefully he's okay. He's on the pitch. I mean, he's being looked at by the training staff. But yeah, great week of USL action. Tomorrow there's going to be 3 games. And like you were talking about earlier, Owen, that some of these games have implications for Rising. So definitely going to want to keep turn on ESPN Plus tomorrow and check out some of these games. We have Hartford versus Memphis, the Baby Bulls hosting Tulsa, Oakland against New Mexico United, and then LA Galaxy 2 hosting Monterey Union. So yeah, that Oakland, New Mexico, and Galaxy Monterey, those are the ones to keep an eye out.
Let's take a look while we're on that then. Going over to our usual betting corner.
DraftKings.
Let's talk about the odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So, if you think that Rising will be below the playoff line tomorrow, great news. You can get -115 on LA Galaxy 2 to get the win at home, and that will drop Rising below the playoff line because LA Galaxy 2 currently hold the tiebreaker. The tiebreaker being first one being head-to-head. So on head-to-head goal differential, Rising beat LA Galaxy 2 3-1 at home. Then they went away to LA Galaxy 2 and they lost 3-0. So Galaxy 2 owns the tiebreaker over Rising. If they win tomorrow, they're level on points, which means that they will overtake Rising. They're at the moment -115 on DraftKings. Now, here's the interesting one. If you think you can call this, Oakland Roots hosting New Mexico United. Again, Oakland with a win would overtake Phoenix Rising. Oakland at the moment +140, New Mexico +145.
Ooh,
So
pretty even.
these two sides did end in a draw the last time they met over in Albuquerque, but pretty even there. So speaking of pretty even as well, New York Red Bulls 2 against FC Tulsa. Red Bulls 2 at the moment plus 140, Tulsa at plus 150.
Oof.
You take Tulsa there, surely.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. What's the Memphis one? How's that looking? I think Memphis is gonna have a little bit of an edge,
Memphis,
right?
I think Memphis are going to take that. But at the moment, while they are favorites, you can still get plus money on that game. Plus 120, Memphis 901.
Yeah, I think I should have listened to Michael a couple weeks ago because I lost some money on those midweek games. You never know what's gonna happen, man. That's the theme by USL, especially midweek. So we'll see.
Crazy stuff in midweek. Crazy
Sure.
stuff. But
And you
go on
guys
then,
can,
give me one prediction. One prediction of something bold. Not
uh,
just a score, or give me a score or who's
I
going to
think
win by how many goals. Come on, give me something.
I
I'll get you
think
some odds.
Monterey tie it with Galaxy.
You
I
think
think that's
Monterrey are going to draw?
that's my
Score draw
prediction.
or no score draw, do you
A
think?
score draw. It's gonna like a 1-1, I think, something like that.
Okay, well, I'm being daft and I can't immediately find that. But draw is plus 270. So
There you go. That's my pick of the week. Let
that's
me
what
know.
he's going with.
Michael, go ahead and bet on it and let me know what happens. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, if you guys are looking to get into action with DraftKings, you guys can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. Make any $5 bet during. Well, right now it's kind of towards the end of the NBA Finals, and you guys can get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details.
I see
Thomas,
that
yes,
Thomas saying 2-0 to Oakland win. Just so you know, that's plus 1,300 at the moment. So there we go. That's the kind of
dang, Thomas.
bravery that we want here.
Hey, drinks on Thomas, man. After the game,
Drinks on Thomas if he wins that.
he
Drinks on
hits,
Thomas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little update on Lambert. He played 82 minutes against Mexico, and so far they're still tied at the 82nd minute. So good game there by Lambert. I'm glad to see him starting for Jamaica. I know there's been kind of some issues there, and I know the players were doing a little bit of having an issue with the federation. So yeah, I'm glad he's getting some starts here, and hopefully he can continue to get called up.
Always dramatic with the Jamaican Football Federation. Always more drama.
Always fun. As far as the rest of the USL games, we'll talk about those on the Thursday show, and we'll let you know what we think. Some news to kind of wrap up the show here, Owen. Our favorite team, New Mexico United, actually were able to reschedule a game.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I saw it on
thought they
Twitter.
couldn't reschedule anything.
That's what they told me. They said, Ramon, look, I know you were looking forward to that game. I know you want the A squad for Phoenix Rising, but unfortunately, it's nothing for the rest of the season. I'm sorry, or our hands are tied. I'm like, okay, it's okay, New Mexico United. We'll let you get that win. But yeah, apparently they're able to do it. So they rescheduled their game against LA Galaxy 2. And the official Phoenix Rising FC account said, after the news came out of the reschedule, Mom, I swear I looked everywhere and I didn't find an open date. It's not there. And Mom says, we rescheduled the date. So yeah, not a good look here, Owen. What's going on here?
I mean, you know what? I've seen it put forward by a podcast from New Mexico that the actual date for this was already kind of on the calendar to reschedule. This game had been supposed to be rescheduled prior to the issues that Rising had, and they were just waiting for league approval. But even if that's true, all it does is raise questions. How does the league take like that long to approve something, and yet can't within 36 hours order that Rising have to play again with a COVID decimated squad? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I tweeted about this. I got some reactions, but yeah, it's just it's upsetting, man. Like I think it just makes the league look really bad, first of all, and you basically handed New Mexico 3 points, which in no way is fair to any organization, not just because it's Rising, but it's not a good look at all.
Just touches a nerve, doesn't it? It touches a nerve for people.
For sure. Another big bombshell that dropped today from USL is that Kobe Henry from Orange County, he's moving on to France to League One. So $700,000 transfer, Owen. So when you hear those kind of figures, especially with USL, with the USL Championship. What do we've seen these transfers happening a little bit more daily. We saw it with Diego Luna from El Paso a few weeks ago. Now, given that one was only 250,000, but this one's like 700,000 plus. Orange County will receive a percentage of any future transfer fee if Henry is to move. So, what are your thoughts on these huge moves coming out of USL?
I wonder if people quite grasp how big that is from a USL perspective, right?
Yeah.
These guys, a lot of them are on contracts for around about 50 grand. You just sold someone for 700. Think about what that buys you. Just seriously. And even, look, it's not necessarily even just about investing heavily in bigger name players, but just think about what that buys you in terms of just keeping the club going, especially in as much as we like to, pretend as though USL is now far more stable than it was, and it is more stable than it was, but it's not stable. Every season it feels as though we have a team or two that don't make it to the next year. And I mean, just to take recent examples, guys like Fresno, Reno, these teams that just don't make it. I mean, Austin isn't working, and hence they had to sell the team effectively, and now look like they're moving them up to Fort Worth. So there's a lot to be said for just bringing in money like that, and the benefit that does for your club, even just stabilizing, not even thinking about how much of it you could invest.
Yeah, no, and I love to see these moves. If you guys weren't aware, and I to be honest with you guys, I wasn't really aware of Kobe Henry being part of Orange County or getting that many minutes, but he was able to get a call up to the U.S. men's national team in December, and then he went on trial with Rhymes. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Rem, there you go. And then during that spell, that's when they decided to pull the trigger on that transfer. So it's good to see. We saw that with Jonathan Gomez with Louisville this last season. So it's great to see. I think there's scouts out there, man. There's scouts looking, all the way down to the USL Championship. And I'm not saying it's like 4th or 5th division, but there's good quality players here, especially young players, and we've seen that in the U.S. national team that a lot of them have experience in USL. And so I think it's a good look for the league, and I think it's just going to continue to happen. So,
and it also helps the fact that contracts in USL are just that bit more flexible than MLS ones. So people do come in knowing if they want to move to Europe when they're 18, but get a bit of professional experience in before then.
Yeah,
that USL is becoming the league to go to for kids here, because MLS rules just aren't as friendly to those kind of moves.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, let's talk about some World Cup news. The World Cup field is set. Australia defeated Peru in penalties. I don't know if you got to see that game, Owen, but
that daft goalkeeper. No,
hate that goalkeeper, man. He did his job, which is, he was substituted in to do that.
We have to talk about two things here. Number one is that the one penalty that goes against the post. To be clear, the goalkeeper was off his line when it was taken, which normally would be fine, because it doesn't matter if the goalkeeper's off their line if it doesn't impact the kicker. And that law change came in a couple of years ago. The problem is that the entire movement, to me, is impacting the kicker.
Yeah, he was moving in and out, and I saw the ref to him twice, but after the third time, I'm like, you need to do something. Give him a yellow or something, because I think it was clearly affecting the play.
And then the other thing to note there is that on the final one, which he did save, was he on the line when when the shot is taken? Yes. However, do we need to refer to Law 14 and bring up the nice little gray area that in procedure, it says that the goalkeeper must remain on the line? So what we're getting into then is a question of, between the signal being given for the kick to be taken until the kick is taken, the keeper should really be remaining on the line.
Yeah.
And by coming off his line, which he did before he then jumps back, it's complicated. And these are questions which the IFAB really needs to deal with. Unfortunately, they can't, because their AGM took place the same day as that game beforehand. And they take a while anyway to think about these things. But but there's something that I think we should look to see the IFAB address in future years, because
Yeah.
realistically, as fun as it might be to some people, you look at that and you just feel like it made a mockery of it, didn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like, it's there's distraction, there's gamesmanship, right? We've all seen that. Every shootout, you'll get the occasional one where a goalkeeper will walk up, they'll walk up to where the taker is, and the referee effectively walks them back and says, "Don't you do that again." You know, you get
Well,
your one chance
yeah.
to get in someone's mind. The referee
Mhm,
says, "You don't do it again, because the next time you're getting a card." But
mhm.
the jumping around is daft. It's
Yeah.
just
I'm not one of those guys that's like, well, respect the unwritten or unspoken rules of the game. I don't care about that. But it was just annoying to see as a viewer. And like you're saying, that I feel like there were numerous rule violations there as well. And I think there was one time where he actually picked up the ball away from the Peruvian kicker and then just was holding on to the ball, and the ref didn't say anything. So those are frustrating things, especially because it's another Latin America team that's not going to be able to go to the World Cup. But today, Costa Rica did defeat New Zealand 1-0. Much better game than the one from Australia against Peru. Yeah, I felt like New Zealand was the better team. They had the most opportunities. Costa Rica just got that goal in the third minute and just they hung on to the lead. So the World Cup field is set. 32 teams. The last time we'll see 32 teams, Owen. How do you feel about that?
it's weird, right? Because everyone will say, well, 32 is the perfect number, but of course the World Cup hasn't been 32 teams for most of its history.
Mm-hmm.
It's complicated. I know that obviously there's a lot of excitement about 26. 26 World Cup, that is not the number of teams when it'll expand to 48, because of course it's coming to the US, Canada, Mexico. Venue announcement coming on Thursday. Phoenix isn't in the running, but if you are interested in that, I might be able to get you some information as it goes along. Rumor has it I might be in New York. But it's I don't know. We'll see. It's the last one with it just kind of really hitting probably what most of us grew up with, for those of us on the younger side of a World Cup being. But obviously, again, the World Cup has been through so many different formats over the years that who really knows?
I was just a fan of it. It's nice and concrete. You know exactly what's going to happen. It's all set up for you. And expanding to 48, I think, dilutes the pool and the quality of play. So I'm not a fan of that. And then we're also seeing changes in the Champions League in a couple of years. They're going to some Swiss model, which I still don't understand. So it's just, I feel like a lot of unnecessary changes here. But yeah, hopefully it's for the better. So 159 days away. Just a little heads up for everybody. So
counting down the days.
November 21st. And then just to wrap up the show, tomorrow there is an event at the with Rising, the club at Four Peaks Brewing Company in Tempe. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Owen?
Yeah, so while we're on it, we'll just point out the fact that Four Peaks is also the official beer of PHNX. But yeah, Rick will be there. The club is apparently buying people beers, and Rick will be there if you want to chat with Rick. So probably hit that up if you're feeling so inclined.
I don't know if Rick really likes me, so otherwise I would go. Maybe I'll just hang in the corner. I'm like, hey man, it's because they're our sponsors. No, I'm just kidding.
Look, if he tolerates me being around, then he's probably not got a problem with you, Ramon.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, he'll be there from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. The first 100 fans will receive a beer on Rising. After your first round, you can get $2 beers courtesy of Four Peaks Brewing Company. So yeah, shout out to them. Not only because they're our sponsor, but that's actually pretty cool that they're doing that. So yeah, if you're looking to get down there to Tempe, 5:30 to 7:30, and you can speak to head coach Rick Schantz. Maybe some players who might show up. I don't know. We'll see.
Don't go chucking that out there.
No, okay. All right. But yeah, let me know if anybody in the chat's going. Let me know if any other players go. All right, y'all. That wraps up the show for today. It's a bit of a long one. We actually went the full hour right now. But
let's not forget one other thing, but quickly before we go.
Go for it.
Not forget, hang on a minute, it's a bit tangled up. Wait, it's coming.
The scarf.
It's coming.
Scarf.
Yeah, we got the scarves.
That is right. Woo! That's right. If you guys haven't purchased your PHNX Rising scarf, they're available right now. So after the show, go. PHNXLocker.com. You guys can get your very own summer weight supporter scarves. So they're very lightweight. You can still wear them to the games, even though it's 100 and 1,520 out there. And they look awesome. That's awesome. That so the person that's modeling, she actually works at the DNVR office. So thank you.
Oh, don't give that away. Don't let people know that we're
No, I was
actually.
just saying thank you for that. You know, they didn't want us modeling, so they let her
They're
do
gonna
it.
think it's an AstroTurf campaign now.
But yeah, you guys can support us here at PHNX Rising by buying one of these scarves again at phnxlocker.com. And again, guys, if you guys get us to 650 followers, which we're 50 away now, or 49, where are we at?
Less than that, 48, I think away.
48, yeah. So if you guys get us to 650, I'll go ahead and do
49
it.
actually.
There you go, 49. So 49 more followers. I'll give away a scarf. I'll personally hand deliver it or mail it to you. That way you guys can model it yourself. So and again, you guys can follow us on Twitter at PHNX__rising.
Double the underscores, double the fun.
That's right. It's back. He didn't want to say it last time, but he did it today.
I didn't want to say it on Saturday night. We were too. No.
Yeah, I understand. We will return on Thursday, y'all. So we're gonna come back with a preview of the Loudon game on Saturday. That's gonna be at 4:30. So it's gonna be an early game here in Arizona. We hope
Just
to see you
a
there.
heads up.
Yes,
Just
sir.
a heads up as well. That Thursday show will be an hour later. We'll be going at 7, not at 6. So please just remember that. If you tune in at 6, you're gonna be sitting around for an hour.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank Owen for that change, actually. But no, I'm just kidding. He has some good stuff going on, so he'll let you know. Thank you, Bonnie, for tuning in. Thomas, Michael, everybody. Josh, I saw you here at the beginning. Always appreciate you being part of the PHNX shows. And yeah, we will see you on Thursday. Until then, be well and stay safe. See you later.